Recording progress.
Good afternoon, everybody. It is Saturday, July 30th, 2022 at 1:03 p.m. And that means it is now time for the latest installment in Western Liberty Network's ongoing series of training sessions provided to grassroots activists, candidates, and others who want to find out how to do politics more effectively. Western Liberty Network is a 501c3 organization, and that means we do not endorse or oppose any candidate, political party, legislation, or ballot measure. We just provide training to grassroots activists who are free to use the training any way they wish. And there may be comments throughout the meeting, and if there are partisan remarks, that is the responsibility of people making them and does not necessarily reflect the view of Western Liberty Network. Now, with that said, I'm going to go to our Western Liberty Network webpage. I'm going to share the screen here. There we go. Okay, this is the WLN webpage, and if you type in westernlibertynetwork.org, you're going to get this page. Rearrange the screen here a little bit so I can work with it. And what you're going to find when you're on our westernlibertynetwork.org webpage is whatever we're working on right now. This at the top describes the training session that we're about to do now, and this is how you sign on. But if you scroll down a little further, you'll find information about other activities we've undertaken at different points. And along the right-hand side are different training resources. Like here is a recorded session on how to organize around local issues, about social media work for candidates and for those volunteering for candidates. Scroll down a little more, there are speeches from different people who have made presentations to our conferences, and so on and so on. If you decide you want more training information, go to the training tab up top. And here you'll find a description about the kind of training that Western Liberty Network provides. I provide a lot of the training, but we also have a stable of about 20 people who also volunteer and provide training. Scroll down a little further and you will see various training documents. If you take a look at these documents, if you see a topic that you like for example, if you want to know how to gather signatures in Oregon on petitions, just click on it and you will see a training document appear on that topic. You can download and print these and distribute them however you like. None of this information is copyrighted. We want to get the information out. If you think it's useful to anyone, pass it along. There are all these topics here. We're always adding to it. We're going to have a new one added shortly, the one we're doing today. And at the bottom, you'll see a PDF file containing all of the training documents. In case you want to look at all of them and don't want to download them individually, you can just do that one link and it'll give you all of our sheets that we have in our library. Scrolling down a little further, you see videos of our various weekly training sessions. The video we're doing now, that we're recording now, will be posted in a few hours. It will appear right here, and the others will scroll down. And if you scroll down, you'll find that we have a year and a half worth of topics for you to look at. A lot of very good stuff, a lot of good trainers. And what's really great about this is that if you go through these videos, see what interests you, and go through these training documents and see what interests you, you can develop your own private, customized training program, however you want to do it. And if you decide you want to support Western Liberty Network through a tax-deductible contribution, you can go to the Support WLN tab, and we use PayPal, so you can make a secured contribution, either one-time contributions or monthly contributions. We're going to be forming a $25 a month and a $100 a month club for people who subscribe at this level. There will be benefits. And by way of announcement, one thing that we have coming up is our annual conference. We're already starting to prepare for that. It'll be on February 3rd or 4th at the Airport Embassy Suites in Portland. We just signed the contract this week for that. So we have that coming up. So that is a little bit of a tour of our website, mostly to benefit the people who will watch this recording, because I think the people on the call actually have already seen most of this before. And with that, we're going to go to our training. And today's training is going to be on building your campaign team. Let's see. I have a document that I'm going to send through the chat window right now. You can open this up as you like, or print it out as you like. And it should be available now on the chat window. And it might seem like an obvious question, but I begin the document with, what is a campaign team? A campaign team is a collection of people that will be responsible for different aspects of your political campaign. You should have a written campaign. I'm tongue-tied today. You should have a written campaign plan that clearly describes what your campaign objectives are and describes the members of your campaign team and what their responsibilities are. Western Liberty Network has a training on how to write a campaign plan. If you are running a serious campaign, you really need a written campaign plan. A written campaign plan does several things. First of all, it helps the candidate crystallize how the campaign is going to run. It makes everyone aware of what their roles are in the campaign and what the objectives of the campaign are and what it is they're trying to achieve through their involvement with the campaign. Also, with respect to donors, it has the function of well, it's the same function as a business plan. If you're starting a business and you want to go in for a loan, you go to the bank. If you don't have a business plan, they'll laugh you out of the building. A lot of donors, they might give you, a token contribution, but if you have a written campaign plan, you're going to get a much better response. You're going to get a larger check. You're going to get more frequent checks. And what I think I'm going to do here is I'm going to go to writing a campaign plan. I'm going to include that training document as well. Okay, so keep an eye out in your chat window again. I've just sent the campaign plan overview. Take a look at that at your convenience. So a lot of folks say, what if I'm running unopposed, or if I'm running for a low-level office? Now, I know Timothy's not running unopposed. If I'm recalling correctly, you're running for state representative, and you are running opposed. But if you're running a difficult race, or if you're running unopposed for a low-level office, why run at all? Why run a campaign at all? And the reasons are several. First, show the voters that you don't take them for granted. If you're running for soil and water conservation district, or water board, or cemetery control board, a lot of the people who watch this training video will be candidates for offices like that, and many of them will run unopposed. So why run an active campaign if you're running unopposed? First, show the voters that you do not take them for granted. If you ever want to run for re-election or run for a higher position, this is an opportunity for you to build your reputation as a community leader that does not take the voters for granted. You're able to educate people about the office that you're running for. You're able to educate people about yourself as a candidate and a public servant. And so even if you are running a low-level campaign, and even if you're running unopposed, it's good to run an active campaign for those reasons. Another reason is because it's a free play. Excuse me. If you're running unopposed, you're going to win, unless there's a dramatic and rare write-in campaign against you. You're going to win. And so this gives you a chance to run an active campaign, and you're free to make mistakes. If you make mistakes, there will be no penalty, because unless you do something horrifically awful, it's not going to affect the election at all. You're going to win the election. So this is a chance for you to run an active campaign and make mistakes that you won't want to make in the future when you are running for another office and do have an opponent and are running an active campaign. This gives you a chance to not only show the voters that you don't take them for granted, but it gives you a chance to get the experience of having run a campaign, have a campaign under your belt. And if you make mistakes, you don't pay the penalty. It's a free play. Another reason to run a campaign, even if you're running unopposed or for a low-level office, is because it will give other people experience in working on a campaign. for the limited government movement to expand its footprint in Oregon and in other states, we have to have larger and more cadres of people who know how to work on campaigns, who have experience working on campaigns. So if you are running for a low-level office or running unopposed, run a campaign and build a campaign team and make sure that they get the experience that they need that will be indispensable for them when they work on some other campaign in the future, maybe even your campaign. They'll have those benefits. So there are a lot of good reasons to run an active campaign, no matter what kind of a race you're running, and a good reason to build a campaign team. By the way, I'm about to go into that now. If anyone has questions, please feel free to unmute yourself and interrupt and interject if you have comments. That's all great. But in building your campaign team, at minimum, you need 3 people. The obvious one is a candidate. Now, under ideal circumstances, a candidate's job is to raise money so they can run their campaign at whatever level they want to fund it at. The candidate's second job is to interact with voters, either directly by knocking on doors, meeting them at food fairs, music fairs, wherever you can, find a place to meet voters, or indirectly through newspaper interviews and those kind of things. So that's the second job, interact with voters. And the third one is to be well-versed in all of the issues that are significant in your campaign and relevant to the position that you're running for. Under an ideal circumstance, that is all the candidate should be doing. The candidate is crippled by one thing, and that is that they're not objective. I've seen a lot of situations where, for example, a candidate would give a speech in front of the Washington County Public Affairs Forum, and 4 or 5 people would go up to the candidate and say, "Boy, that was great. I really liked what you said. Can you answer this question for me?" Have a really positive interaction with the candidate. And then the candidate goes to the campaign manager and says, "Boy, I think I'm going to win this election. Everyone who came up to me said that they love what I did. They love what I said. They said they're going to vote for me. I know I'm going to win." But the campaign manager, if there's a campaign manager, is smart enough to say, well, no, that's not what that means. If somebody didn't like what you said, they just left. They just left. They didn't hang around to get more information about you. Only the ones that liked you did that. So we don't really have any indication, as to how the crowd thought of you, just the people that came up to you afterward. And that certainly is no indication on how the election is going to go. That's one example of how a candidate typically is not very objective. It's not that it's a flaw or a fault, it's human nature. Because when you're a candidate, your name is on the ballot, your name is the one that might take the arrows, or you're the one that everybody's looking at when you're running for office, and there's ego involved. Most people are able to mitigate that to a degree, but it's never possible to do it 100%. And that's why you need somebody on your campaign that's in a responsible position who can be more objective and can run the nuts and bolts of a campaign. And that person is the second one on your team. That's the campaign manager. The campaign manager works in consultation with the candidate, but ideally, other than raising money, being familiar with the issues of the campaign, and interacting with the voters, selection of your campaign manager is ideally the last decision that the candidate makes. Beyond that, the campaign manager should be responsible for coming up with a strategy to win, writing a campaign plan, and of course this has to be approved by the candidate. The campaign plan or the campaign manager should not ever put a candidate on a course that causes he or she to depart from their cardinal principles, or to do something that they think is unethical or anything like that. But the campaign manager should be primarily responsible for designing the campaign and writing the campaign plan in consultation with the candidate. After that, the campaign manager is responsible for executing the campaign plan, making sure that everything is run the way it's supposed to be run, according to the timeline, working with other members of the campaign team in a supervisory way, make sure that advance work is done at all the places where the campaign is there, where the candidate is going to appear. There's just a lot of things, and most of them are listed in the document here, the campaign manager and the strategist. In a very high level campaign where hundreds of thousands or even millions of dollars are spent, this job is often split into two people, where you've got a general consultant. The general consultant will be the architect of the campaign, who will write the campaign plan, come up with the master strategy, and the campaign manager will be responsible exclusively for the nuts and bolts relating to the execution of that campaign plan. But in smaller campaigns, the strategist and campaign manager can be combined into one. So you really need that person, no matter what position you're running for. Get a campaign manager. It'll take a lot off your plate. It'll allow you to be a better candidate. It'll give the campaign manager, whoever it is, experience in running a campaign, coordinating with people. There are just a lot of benefits to it. But the campaign manager is going to be far more objective than a candidate could ever be in just about every circumstance. The third indispensable member of a campaign team is your treasurer. The treasurer is also, in a small campaign, is also the campaign finance compliance director. A treasurer, as such, it's what you would expect. The treasurer monitors the income, the outflow of money, maintains the checkbook, makes sure everything's fine with the bank, but also most places require that if you spend more than a certain amount of money, that there be campaign finance reporting. In the state of Oregon, we have a system called ORSTAR. Washington has a different system. Every state has their own system. And in a smaller campaign, the treasurer is somebody who will monitor the money, but also make sure that campaign expenditures and contributions are properly reported. It's important to have a separate person to do this. For one thing, the candidate needs to focus on being a candidate. The candidate needs to focus on raising the money, informing himself, getting informed on the issues that are relevant to his campaign, and interacting directly and indirectly with voters. Every minute that every minute that the candidate spends doing treasurer work or campaign finance compliance work is a minute they're not doing their core job. And the same is true with the responsibilities of the campaign manager or the strategist. So you really want to have a treasurer, somebody that's good with money. They don't have to be an expert. They don't have to be an accountant. They just have to be responsible people who are good with money. And so find somebody who is willing to be the treasurer and is willing to do campaign finance compliance work. It's not difficult to do. Most of it is, like the ORSTAR system in Oregon. Maintaining that online is really similar to operating with a program like Quicken. There are other programs in other states, but it's not bad, and it's easy to learn. They provide you with the manuals you need to know. The Secretary of State also provides free training in these things, and it's a saleable skill. If you find a treasurer or a campaign finance compliance consultant who's willing to learn the rules related to campaign finance reporting in your state and becomes proficient in campaign finance reporting, it is a saleable skill. They can make a lot of money working for different campaigns, not just candidate campaigns, but ballot measure campaigns. And if you're like this state, there is a shortage of people who really know how to do this well. And so what you've got here is an opportunity for someone, whoever you name as treasurer or campaign finance compliance consultant, is an opportunity for them to get a saleable skill. Now, mind you, for small, local, nonpartisan campaigns, the work is very simple and just about anybody can do it without extensive training. But if you want to get the training, you've got a saleable skill where you can make a decent amount of money by working on various campaigns. But anyway, one other reason you want to have a treasurer, and this is very important. The candidate should never be the treasurer, ever, ever, ever. And the reason why is because even the most professional people, even accountants, will sometimes make mistakes. And if a mistake is made in campaign finance reporting or in dealing with the checkbook and there's an overdraft or whatever it is really better if it is not the candidate. If it is the candidate who is doubling as their own treasurer and these kind of mistakes are made, it opens up the candidate to charges of being financially incompetent. If he or she can't manage the finances or the reporting related to his campaign, how can we trust him to handle finances related to public office? It's a reasonable question. And it's important that the candidate be insulated from any possibility. If a treasurer makes a mistake, well, they can say, well, our treasurer just made a mistake. We're going to take care of it and it's going to be fixed. But if it's the candidate, it can very easily and very quickly become a campaign issue. It could be said that if you have a treasurer that makes a number of mistakes, that it's an error of judgment on the candidate's part. They, took this person on as their treasurer. That could be a campaign issue too. But still, it's never as bad as when it's the candidate himself or herself who is trying to be their own treasurer as well, and then a mistake is made. So these are the three people that you've got to have, even in a small race. Have a candidate, and that's obvious. Have a campaign manager and strategist, and have a treasurer and campaign finance director. If you're running for soil and water conservation district or fire and rescue or whatever it is, make sure you've got at least that three on your campaign team. There are some more positions we're going to talk about here that most campaigns will also want to have, but you've got to have those three. So start with those. The following positions are great to have if you can find people to fill them. If you are running a more sophisticated campaign, you will find them very helpful or even indispensable. We've got another person joining us here. Jeff Klang is joining us. Excellent. Jeff, you've missed a little bit of it, not all of it, but we will have the recording of this session up on the training tab of the westernlibertynetwork.org website. So if you want to go back and see what you missed, you'll be able to do that within a couple of hours of the conclusion of this session. But anyway, welcome very much, Jeff. Thank you for joining us today. Okay, of these additional positions, one of them is a communication and social media director. This person will be responsible for managing your campaign's internet presence and your social media. Your campaign should have a basic website, and your campaign should have a basic presence on a few social media sites like Facebook or Instagram or any of those, Telegram or any of those positions, whatever they are. This person will be responsible for maintaining your social media, your website, and will also be responsible for doing things like press releases and organizing or being an intermediary between yourself and newspaper reporters who want to interview you or any of those sorts of things. In a very large campaign, you may want to divide these into two people where you have a communication director that's responsible for dealing with the media and press releases and those sorts of things, and a social media director who's just on the net all the time, updating your social media and web presence. But for smaller campaigns, you can usually combine them into combine them into one position, and that is what their job is. Another one is field director. The campaign manager has a lot on his or her plate, as you can tell by our previous discussion of that. The campaign manager is responsible for, of course, designing the campaign, coming up with a strategy to win, writing the campaign plan, executing the campaign plan, but also for all of the field work that's going to be done in the campaign. If there's neighborhood canvassing or volunteer coordination, or if there's a booth at a food fair, or those kind of things, the campaign manager is responsible for that. But if you can find a person to do it, get a field director. A field director essentially offloads from the campaign manager all of the field work, the volunteer work, the neighborhood canvassing, the telephone canvassing, the booth at the food fair, whatever. Those kind of things are things that the field director does, and the campaign manager can more intensely focus on making sure that the other campaign team members have what they need to be successful, backing them up if they get overloaded, and also updating the campaign plan as the campaign progresses and evolves, and interacting with the candidate. So field director is great if you can have one. And by the way, if you start looking around now, it should be possible to find volunteers to handle most of these positions. If you deal with volunteers, have a frank discussion with them about what their responsibilities are. And if you're not sure about how much time they're going to need to commit, be frank with them about that. Say that, I'm new at this too, and I don't know how much time this is going to be. I think you should assume, that it's a reasonable amount of time to do the job properly, and make sure that they have each volunteer you enlist, make sure that they have a plan to balance their work for you along with their career and family, because you don't want to have a key member of your team burn out because they didn't plan very well to balance their family life and their work life and their volunteer life. So it's an issue relating to volunteers. And excuse me, Western Liberty Network actually has a training on how to manage volunteers. And I think I'm going to provide that to you as well. Let's see, give me a second to find it. While we're waiting for me to do that, does anyone have a question so far?
Yeah, I do. I haven't seen anything in the chat, by the way.
You haven't seen anything in the chat yet? Okay.
Yeah, I'm not getting anything there either.
That's bizarre. Okay, because it shows here that it's getting sent, so I'm not sure what the problem is there.
Can it be downloaded off of the?
Yeah, if you have a chat window separate from the picture of the people there, if you go down and click chat, you'll probably see a chat window.
Yeah, I see Michelle's message, but I don't see anything from you.
Okay, I'm going to try to send these again. Okay, I'm going to send these again. Send a file. Building your campaign team. I'm sending it right now. It says file has been sent successfully.
Yeah,
So
well, yeah, I don't see it. But is it something that can be downloaded off the site?
Yes. I haven't posted this one yet because it's a brand new document, but the other ones are posted. Michelle, Jeff, Donna, are you able to see these documents?
No, I'm still only seeing the question that I asked, which is.
Even with the election coming up in November.
Yeah, I see that.
Let's talk about that question for a second. Can you state your question more fully? You're talking about building a team even with the campaign election coming up in November. What are you asking?
Do you think this will be enough time to get like volunteers for a campaign?
Yes. Yes. If you start working now, you should be able to get volunteers in time to be effective and build a team before November. I'd get cracking on it though, because you're going to want to spend the last half of August and September, at least September, preparing people to do their jobs, and then latter part of September and October, you're going to want them moving. So make sure that if you're going to build a team, now is a very good time to start for November. Certainly, there's enough time to start for the positions in May, but it is not too late to start. If you want to email me or text me through the chat window your email addresses, I'll send you all these documents directly by email.
Okay.
Okay, so the next position that you may want to have is that of volunteer director. This person, will be responsible for recruiting volunteers, organizing them, and deploying them wherever they are needed. This person will work hand in hand with the field director or the campaign manager, who will work, to make sure that these volunteers are deployed. So, if it is in the campaign plan to do neighborhood canvassing, the volunteer director is going to be responsible for finding the volunteers, getting them ready, making sure they show up, coordinating them, and making sure that they do their jobs. It's the more people you have, the more you can break these jobs up. If you just have a campaign manager and that's all, this falls under the campaign manager's job. They've got to do the volunteer coordination work as well. If you have a field director, You're able to offload those things from the campaign manager, allowing the campaign manager to focus on working with the campaign team and updating the campaign plan. And all of the volunteer responsibilities fall to the field director. If you have a volunteer director, then the volunteer management responsibilities are offloaded from the field director, and the field director can focus on preparing for different events in the field, such as going to craft fairs, food fairs, pickle festivals, parades, door knocking campaigns, and all of those sorts of things. But volunteer director is very, very helpful. Another position that's really good is that of information and research director. This is a person who can do this from their desktop at home, and what they will do on small campaigns typically is to do whatever research the candidate requests or needs related to issues that are important to the race or issues that are relevant to the position the candidate is running for. Make sure that all the information is there. The information director also, if you've got an interview with Joe Blow of the Medford Mail Tribune, does a little research on who that person is, what their bent is, what their writing style is like, what kind of questions they ask, and give the candidate some preparation on that person, so they have they don't go in blind and get blindsided. In more sophisticated campaigns, the information director will also look at your opponents to try to find compromising information that I for ethical reasons don't get personal, but anything that's relevant to their ability to perform or be qualified for the office that they're running for, do some opposition research. Now, in small local nonpartisan campaigns, people don't like negative campaigning. These are typically volunteer positions, like water board, school board, well, not school board so much, but water board, and a lot of the lower positions, they're volunteer positions. There's no glory, there's no money, and people are just offering their time to serve their community. And at these positions, they don't like negative campaigns. Voters just don't like them. They are more open to negative campaigns when you're dealing with a high-level office or a controversial office or those sorts of things. And if you're running for a higher stakes position, you might want your information director to do opposition research as well. But if you're running for a local nonpartisan office, your information director is going to provide you with information about the people you'll be interacting with, particularly with the media, and making sure that you've got all the information you need on all the relevant issues and issues that are relevant to the position that you're running for. Okay, let's see. I've got 3 email addresses here. Okay, so I'm going to do this now. michellebird01@gmail. Oh, it's not letting me copy it. Yeah, there it is. Okay. Okay. Jeff Klang. Okay. And Mr. Sutherland. Okay, I'm blind copying you here so that I can keep all of your emails private relative to each other. So I'm emailing myself. And Donna, I don't know if you want this too. Okay, I'm going to send you these 3 documents. Okay. Okay, should appear in your inbox momentarily. So those will be available for you. Okay, and then the final position I have listed here is a scheduler and candidate's personal assistant. Now again, in more sophisticated campaigns or higher level campaigns, these are going to be 2 separate people. But for local, nonpartisan, smaller offices and races, you can combine these into 2. The scheduler is the person who maintains the master schedule of the campaign. Nobody schedules anything without first checking with the scheduler to make sure that there isn't a conflict. And if people approach the scheduler directly, the scheduler doesn't commit the candidate to anything without consulting first with the candidate or the campaign manager. There are rare exceptions to this, like if you're waiting for an opportunity to be invited to this thing or that thing, and the scheduler gets that, the scheduler should know to go ahead and write you in for that. But under most circumstances, if someone approaches the scheduler should not make an executive decision. Check with the campaign manager and the candidate before writing it in. And nobody schedules anything unless you're gone through the scheduler and make sure that the time is available. Google Calendar is usually adequate for small campaigns. There are big programs like Nation Builder and these kind of things for more sophisticated campaigns where you can maintain a scheduler. But for most of the campaigns that we're going to be dealing with, limited dollar campaigns and smaller campaigns, Google Calendar or something like it is usually sufficient to do what you want to do. And the candidate's personal assistant. Sometimes this is the same person as the scheduler, but it could be a separate person if you can find someone to do it. This person goes with the candidate everywhere the candidate goes. If the candidate knocks on doors, this person goes along too. If the candidate goes to an interview, this person goes along too. If a candidate gives a speech at a civic club, this person goes along too. The personal assistant, makes the candidate look important, opens the door for them, carries around the briefcase if there is a briefcase, takes notes if there are people that you need to be in contact with, takes notes about the names and phone numbers and email addresses of people you want to be in touch with, takes notes about what happens at the event, make sure that the candidate always has water if they're speaking. Just take care of the candidate's individual personal needs. Make sure that the candidate needs everything that they have to be successful. Another function of the personal assistant is to help the candidate exit. Sometimes after a speech, if the candidate needs to get going, people will want to grab the candidate's elbow and say, I want to speak with you, and hold the candidate up for 20 minutes. If the candidate says, look, I got to go, it sometimes can make the candidate appear bad, like he doesn't really want to talk to the people. It's much better if the candidate's personal assistant goes into the situation and says, hey Bob, we've got to get going, we're late for this other appointment, and help the candidate get out of those situations. That's an important thing for the candidate's personal assistant to do. But these are the secondary people that you might need: the communication, social media director, the field director, the volunteer director, information research director, and scheduler and candidate's personal assistant. Again, some of these can be split up with respect to larger campaigns. Now, most of this is geared toward small, local, and nonpartisan campaigns. And I expect that in most cases, not all of these positions will be filled. In a lot of cases, the top 3 positions will be candidate, campaign manager, and treasurer, and that'll cover a lot of campaigns. A lot more the other positions I described. If you can get them all filled and get people to do them, it's great. It gives people experience, it gives you experience, and it increases your chances for victory. But if you're running a really high-level campaign, if you're running a campaign where you're talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars or even millions of dollars, these positions will all be critical. All of these positions are critical, but you're probably not going to be able to get by with volunteers. You're probably at that level going to have to hire professionals. You're also going to need a few more people. You'll probably need a media consultant. A media consultant is the person that helps develop branding, does production for television, radio, podcast, these kind of things. The personal media consultant should have relationships with the various media outlets to secure airspace, print space, and all the other things you need. Be hooked up with a media house in case you do any direct mailing. All of those things a media consultant does. One good thing about a media consultant is that in the profession, you don't generally have to pay them directly. They get a 15% kickback from radio stations that they secure advertising time with, TV stations, newspaper. It's very standard in the industry, and that's how they make their money. Another position that you probably need in a high-level, high-dollar race is what they call a general consultant or a strategist. This person sort of takes these responsibilities from the campaign manager, responsible for being the architect of a campaign, responsible for coming up with a campaign plan, coming up with a winning strategy, writing the campaign plan, and these kind of things. And then the campaign manager's job is basically to execute the campaign plan and supervise the other members of the campaign team as they execute their parts of the campaign plan. You got to watch general consultants, though. A lot of statewide races, they don't do a lot and they take a lot of money. And if you get an out-of-state campaign consultant, they don't always understand the politics of your district or your race, but there are good ones out there. There are good ethical ones out there, but you've got to be very careful. And for some of you who might be running a local race, who knows, you might be running a big dollar race one of these days, and you're going to need to know these things. But a media consultant and a general consultant or strategist, along with the positions that we've already discussed, will in most cases be sufficient to run a good high-level, high-dollar campaign. But again, this training is not geared toward high-dollar, high-level races. This one is trained or is geared toward smaller local races or races that are financially constrained. And for those, you've got to have your three top candidate: campaign manager, strategist, treasurer, campaign finance director. That is your bare minimum. You cannot live without. Beyond that, your communications, social media director, field director, volunteer director, information research director, and scheduler or campaign's personal assistant. Those are really good to have if you can find people to do them. If you can find volunteers to do them, it's even better. But if you need to pay them and you have the money, don't be afraid to pay them. One thing that's great about paying people is that they're a lot more accountable than volunteers are, and a lot more reliable than volunteers are. But if you can find a few volunteers, if you find 5 volunteers to help you run a low budget race or a low level race, you're going to be doing very well. You're going to give yourself experience, you're going to give them experience, and whether you're running with opposition or not, you're going to be great. And finally, the last thing I would say about any of this is don't be intimidated. I know when you start, when you hear somebody like me talking about paid campaigns and $250,000 races and these kind of things, advertising, media consultants and all that, it can get pretty intimidating if you've never run a race before. But don't let it intimidate you. I provide this information just so you know, if you're running a financially constrained race, or if you're running a race for a local office, it really isn't complicated. Just deal with the basics and you'll be fine. Get your 3 people, your candidate, your campaign manager, your treasurer. Start with that. You've got a great foundation. Grow into the rest of it as you're able to do it, as your written campaign plan requires. I've provided you with quite a bit here. Michelle's got the files. I'm going to assume that the rest of you have them as well, that I've sent them to. But what I've sent you is this sheet, and that is designing your campaign team. I've got it called canvassing your campaign team, but that's an error I'm going to have to fix. A campaign plan overview to help guide you in the writing of a campaign plan, and working with volunteers. These 3 things can really help you go a long way toward winning your race. And so that's my presentation. Are there any questions or comments today related to this?
Yeah, so what if you're running a financially constrained campaign, but for a national level office?
Are you talking about like you're running for US Senate or president or any of those kind of things? Okay. If you're running a race like that, the odds are you're not going to win the election. There are situations where, there are anomalous situations that pop up from time to time. where you're where freak, lightning strikes and you win. But if you're running for a national office and you're financially constrained, you're probably not going to win the election. What I recommend people do in this case is, as a part of their written campaign plan, they come up with secondary objectives, things that will be of value after the campaign, whether the campaign wins election or not. There are examples of that. For example, set a goal. I'm going to have 100 donors, and I'm going to build a network of 100 donors. I'm going to build a network of 20 volunteer workers. I'm going to develop 50 media contacts. All of these kind of things are important because even if you lose your election, you're going to have these networks available for future projects. If you run for another office in the future, or if you want to run a ballot measure campaign, or simply if you want to mobilize people for or against a certain issue that might be before the legislature or city council or something like that. If you are running a race that is unlikely to win the election, you need secondary objectives to give people a reason to invest their time and donors to invest their money. Why should I invest in your campaign? Well, even if you don't think we're going to win, we're going to do these things too. And these things will have value beyond the campaign. And make that the focus of your campaign. And if you do that, your campaign will still be worth investing in. It'll be worth investing time. It'll be worth investing money. It'll be worth investing talent. And you'll be ready if there's an opening, if there's an unexpected opening that could cause an unwinnable election to become a winnable election. Doing these things will position you to take advantage of that opportunity. Does that answer your question, Michelle?
It actually answers it perfectly. Thank you.
Okay, very good. Timothy and Jeff, have you been able to check your email to see if you got the documents that I sent you? Okay, I'm not hearing from either of you, so I'm assuming that you have the documents. If not, you can download them off the training tab of the westernlibertynetwork.org website.
I do. I just couldn't unmute my screen there, so I do have them.
Okay, you've got them. Excellent.
Yes.
Excellent. Very good. Very good. Okay, is there anything for the good of the order before we call it a day? Okay, seeing none.
Thanks for your help, and
Yep.
You let me know just how far behind I am.
Well, do your best. There's still time to catch up. There's still a ways between now and November. You can do it. We will not be having one next week. I'll be in Minnesota, so we're not doing a training next week, but the week after we will do one. So stay tuned to your email for announcement about that, and we hope to see you in 2 weeks. God bless and take care.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Michelle. Bye-bye.